can put them on the camera. Let's see, 1 second.
Can you guys see this? Can you see this? Look at those little guys.
Let's see. This thing says it's setting up the meeting on YouTube, so hopefully it's working. We'll see how it is in 1 minute, apparently. Setting up your meeting on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's live on YouTube yet, but we like to go live on YouTube for these workshops because it's the replay for everybody who can't join us live. They get to join the replay. So here we are. Now we're back in action. And welcome, everybody. Basically, every week we come together live. It's one of my favorite things that we do. And one of the things that we like to talk about every time, in my view, is what are you creating with your life? That's one really nice, important topic. And then in what way can you leverage your skills and information that you learn through the Flow State Institute to help you manifest your dreams and goals even better, if possible, if that's even humanly possible, and to be able to do it in a way that has a lot more ease and grace and flow. So flow is the energy of the feminine, like the divine feminine energy of the universe. So it's a very interesting thing because a lot of people talk about flow and there's many different perspectives on it. But the way that I like to see it or consider it is that the energy of flow is actually the energy of the entire universe. Right? So if you can connect to flow, what you're actually doing is connecting to the source of life, which is the universe itself or God or however you want to just name that. But basically connecting to flow is connecting to the divine source of life. And so if anything is blocking the flow, what we call it sometimes blocking the flow, it usually is there's some kind of disconnect between the oneness of existence and the way that your energy is operating in relation to that. Right? So think about it like this. Like if you have a big conflict happening in your life and it feels like heavy and negative or like drama or whatever the problem, right? Like a lot of times human relationships tend to have this element. So let's just say you have something like that going on. So what that really is, because if you think about it, all beings on earth are actually part of the oneness of existence, right? So like we're all one on a very fundamental level. And so when you have conflict with anyone within the construct of all that is, you actually have conflict with everyone. It's so weird, right? Leave a comment if you know what I'm talking about, because I want to make sure that I'm making this point understood. Because in the Flow State Institute, like think about it. If you're going to learn all these meditations, these breath work, these yoga practices, all of these different ways of cleansing and clearing out blocked energy, what are you really aiming for there is really to get to the core of it all. And the core of it all is that you are one with everything. And so any disconnect from any of it that is out of harmony, that is in a low negative vibration, whatever you want to call that, whether it's conflict or resentment, shame, anger, or guilt, or any of those things, that the healing of that or the return to flow is to let it go. And so one of the key principles of flow state is surrender. We call it surrender. You can call it letting go. You can call it allowing. Those three words, they're all kind of the same, right? So it's like surrender, let go, and allow. So if you look at your life, like this is something you do for a homework, perhaps, I guess you could say. If you look at your life and you say, okay, where can I let go more? Like, what am I holding on to that the very energy of that, the grip that I have on it, the desire that I have for it, is actually the resistance that's pushing it away? Or what am I holding on to for perhaps energetically in regard to another person that I could forgive and forgive and let go, And so the process of going through and actually like healing all of the dynamics in your life or in our lives, that's something that I've done for several decades. I mean, they compile over time. So if you made like a list and you were like, okay, here's all the people and situations that I can see that I hold a charge around it. So if you hold a charge around it, what that means is that you feel an energy that is disharmonious, and that it could be what I'm explaining, which is blocking the flow of all the goodness that you deserve in your life. So when it comes down to it, right, like that's the real work. So if you're doing the teacher training with us and you're going through these practices, really keep that in mind, so that if you're breathing or you're doing EFT or you're doing meditations or any of that, go into those stories and the programs that are running inside of the consciousness, that are not who you really are, and that are out of harmony with the oneness of existence, and that could be potentially blocking your flow from the infinite abundance and goodness that you deserve in your life. And that's one thing that I feel has got to be a priority, in everybody's life. I think this should be a priority for everybody. Like, the more every human does that and like takes accountability, takes responsibility for each individual interaction, exchange. And it doesn't mean you need to do really something big about it. It just really means forgive it, love it, let it go. See the lesson, see the blessing, gain the wisdom. And then from the lesson, the blessing, and the wisdom, it's wonderful, because then you can look at everything at like there's like a silver lining always, right? So it's like worst case scenario thing happens, but isn't it interesting that you can usually find a blessing or a lesson in everything, right? And when I did that with everything in my life, even when I had been raped, I had people steal from me, I got in like 5 car accidents that I almost got killed, I had scoliosis, I had people's sort of like horrible things all the time, like many things. And so it's like one by one. And then you want to look at it and be like, what did this teach me? And like, how can I walk away from this with more strength, more conviction, more empowered, more aligned, more connected to God, more clear about my purpose, about what I'm here for, about who I want to connect to, about how I want to show up, about how I am being in the world. And when you start to look at those things, that's a whole nother dimension. Because then it's like, how am I being in this world? How am I showing up? And does it match my highest vision for myself? This is actually fundamentally and even psychologically, it's been proven that this is one thing that makes people like not be able to experience happiness, is when what you see yourself as doesn't match how you're showing up. This is the fundamental, I'm a happiness expert, right? I was inducted into the Happiness Hall of Fame at Stanford. I got to speak at United Nations for International Day of Happiness. And I felt when I was, the journey of happiness, it's like the key element. There's so many things, but one of the things is that nothing outside of you can affect your state of being happy. And if once you reach that, then like you're invincible. You know what I mean? Because nothing outside of you should affect your state. It's like whatever's going on outside, it is what it is, right? So you're going to maintain happiness no matter what. Contentment, joy, focus on God, being in alignment, getting clear in yourself of your purpose, no matter what's happening outside. And then everything that's happening outside is always part of the continual growth opportunities that we have in the school of life. So, give me a more. This is like, she's taking a nappy. She's like, I'm taking a nappy. Look at her little face. Look at these babies. They're sleepy and they're nursing. Mi amor, the puppies. She's so good. She's being a really good baby. I mean, mother. She's a mother now. Help. My baby became a mother. It's very interesting. It's like the cycle of life is so beautiful and interesting when something transitions like that. It's also what we're doing a lot in the Flow State Institute. So whoever's coming to the teacher training in January in Bali, it's really exciting because we're going to be training some of the leaders to start leading those. Now, after I've been leading these for over 11 years, this will be our 12th year in Bali, actually, leading these yoga teacher training retreats. And it's been a remarkable journey. Like, to me, when I started out, there was nothing I wanted more than to just travel the world, teach yoga, spread consciousness, and have this adventurous, amazing life like that. And it was really the most wonderful life, and I can't even say anything bad about it. I mean, there were certain things that I gave up, you could say, in order to have that level of freedom. So, like, for example, a lot of my friends were getting married and having, like, whatever, kids and all the things like that. And I couldn't have any of that because I was traveling the world teaching, and I built my school and I impacted, like 100 million people, and I got the opportunity to do some really incredible things. And so I feel like that cycle of life is coming to completion. And so in January, this teacher training that we're doing in Bali is really a unique and special experience because we're going to be training the next group of leaders, I guess you could say. And the group of leaders will be carrying the torch forward and leading the yoga teacher training retreats for the Flow State Institute. And I'm really excited about that. So we have, I think, about 5 leaders already confirmed that are coming to assist and to learn how to do that. And then everybody else that's enrolled is coming just for the first time. But everybody has that opportunity that does the yoga teacher trainings that we do, like we offer, that you can become a leader. Like, that's one of the things I think that differentiates Flow State Institute from any other yoga school in the world, is that, I know how hard it was to build my school, how to build my brand, how to build my career. And so what I aim to do, and that's why I also created the Master Business Academy, what I aim to do is make it easier for my tribe. You don't have to struggle and take 17 years to build something. You can actually step into a really successful, beautiful, school that we have, a community, and run with it in many ways. So we're going to be able to offer trainings. We're going to be able to offer trainings in, we have Bali. We've been doing Bali for 11 years. And then we also have a great location in Greece and in Costa Rica and in Hawaii. So those are like our 4 locations that we'll be able to offer moving forward in the future. But anyway, so basically I'm just kind of like mentioning all of this so that you can get a nice understanding, like, if you're coming to Bali with us, and even if it's your first training with us, that we really are seeking people that want to be leaders, and that you want to really travel the world, you want to lead retreats and trainings. That's what I see for some people. Not everybody's a leader. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody wants to travel, but that's something that's available. And then also, we're also going to be looking for people who want to help us with the online, because we have a lot of people in the online. And also, we're going to be launching this with the school districts in the next 6 months, the California and the Miami school districts. And we're going to need a lot of help with that too. So basically, everybody that joins the teacher training at this stage, and everybody up until now as well, though, is really like a new and unique timing and opportunity, because we have so many things that are happening, and the expansion of it is just going to generate more need for more really qualified, trained, skillful teachers on our team that can help. And we can hire you, and then you can work with us and have an amazing life, and like kind of create it according to your own design. And also, I was thinking about, because I'm going to be focusing on producing a few films. So one of our films is about the children of the future. So that's going to be really cool, because we're talking about how Flow State Institute and the Art of Living, also the Art of Living Foundation, and also Choose Love Foundation, like our group, which is what I call Children of the Future. It's like an amazing nonprofit initiative. We even got a letter of endorsement from the Vice President Kamala Harris recently about the Children of the Future initiative. And I just have such a strong feeling that we're going to be able to achieve our goal, which is to get yoga and meditation and holistic healing into every school for every child, and also for the teachers in all the schools in America. And I would like to see eventually worldwide. I mean, I don't see why not. I think it's definitely possible. And like a lot of times, once America does something, a lot of the other countries follow suit. So that's really the plan, the vision, the goal. But we're going to start with the California Charter School Association. We're actually going to be presenting at their conference in March in Sacramento, and they have 1,500 schools. So we'll be working with them. And then also we're working towards an agreement with the Miami School District. And this is the fourth largest school district in the country. And there's over 40,000 teachers here and over 330,000 children. So we'll be bringing these programs into the schools. So if you're a part of our tribe, if you're motivated or inspired to be involved in that, please know that you're welcomed to, and there's going to be lots of opportunities for that once you graduate. And also, if you have any friends that are passionate about these things, let them know, and let them know they can join the training, and then they can be a part of our team. Because that's really what I see. Like, think about it. There's 3.5 million school teachers in America. So how many teachers do we need to make that, to really serve that? It's going to be, we need a lot of help in that regard. And so everybody that joins the training that we have is being prepared for something bigger, right? And then the other thing, we're going to create a film eventually also about the flow state. So the flow state, the children of the future, those are going to be 2 documentaries that I'm going to be creating. And then also the one for the dynamic renaissance. So the dynamic renaissance is so exciting. This is something that came to me. It's literally a dream come true. I've always been obsessed with architecture and properties. Like, I was a realtor before I was a yoga teacher. So it's funny because, yeah.
Really quick before we go to the next topic, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit more about like the getting involved with like the yoga teacher trainings, and then also with the children of the future, and like kind of what that process looks like, a little bit of like how we get involved, and then also like the sustainability of those like routes of like career paths, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm happy to have any at any time. I didn't mention it, but I guess I always assume at any time you guys are welcome to ask questions. So please, and thank you, Madison. That was a great question. Yes. So here's the thing, like, what I created as far as this initiative is a big vision. And then what's happening is like the implementation of it, that takes time. So we're in like the early stage where we didn't officially actually begin yet, but we're in the process of like securing these contracts, getting the schools on board, getting the government to endorse our program, getting the funding from the school districts. That's the process. So that's what I was saying, which is like the next 6 months where we'll have all those things in place. And then the other thing that we're putting in place that I was kind of mentioning is this documentary film. And I think the documentary film will, we will go hand in hand in terms of, as we start implementing the program, the film is actually following the implementation of the program, kind of to show, how this changes these people's lives, because that's really what it's about. Most people, when they think of yoga or meditation, if they don't already practice yoga and meditation, they wouldn't think this is going to change people's lives. A lot of them might think, oh, they're going to stretch their hamstrings. What's the big deal? So like the first level is really just, that's the importance of the documentary film, is to make like the mainstream population aware of the true psychological value and benefit of this. And it's already been proven by like Harvard and Stanford and Yale and all this research. So it's not really far-fetched to even say they should already get it. But ultimately what I've learned over time is that a lot of people, they're just we'll just call it uneducated or ignorant, like they just don't know. And so like if people don't know that something can heal the mental health crisis, for example, then they would never assume, yeah, yoga in all the schools. But like what we aim for with our media that we're creating is to make that like 100% obvious that this is the solution. And if you put it up against a couple of other solutions that they've tried, it's just an obvious thing. Because, for example, there are 2 other things that they do a lot in the schools. One of them is counselors, and the other one is psychiatrists. Now, counselors, their main form of healing people or helping the problem is talking about it. Now, we all know how much that helps, right? Like talking about your problems. It doesn't usually solve them, especially if you're like an 8-year-old that has psychological and emotional trauma or something, you know what I mean? So we kind of know, I mean, not to say counselors are not important, because there is an element of importance to that. You got to talk about it, right? There's that step, but it's not the final step, and it's not really the solution. It's just a step on the ladder of getting to the solution. So that was a traditional approach with most schools, is hiring counselors. And then the other thing that they tend to do is have psychiatrists involved. So then psychiatrists really are only trained to do one thing: prescribe medication. So a psychiatrist hears your problem and goes like, okay, you're going to take this pill, and this pill. And that's what they're trained to do. So they don't have any other, usually any other solutions. Some of them are also trained in hypnosis, and those are the most valuable, because hypnosis is a form of meditation. It really is. It's taking the mind and re-scripting the storylines, right? And so if somebody has like a lot of trauma, and then their mind is trapped in that. Who here, leave a comment if you've had trauma, right? So if you've had trauma, which I think most people have, it's like it stays in you, and you're like, how do you get that out? Do you get it out by talking about it? Almost never. I've had a lot of trauma. Almost never is like talking about it gonna help. Now, it will be one step on the ladder. You do need to talk about it to somebody, but just talking about it left and right does not heal it. And so you have to be able to have the proper tools, the modalities that actually get to the core of it and help people to heal their trauma. And so it's not just trauma, there's a lot of things, but we usually group all of these things that are like problematic under the word trauma, because trauma is kind of this umbrella word that's like all the bad things that happen to you. We'll call that trauma. But actually the definition of trauma is actually more specific, where something that happened in your life imprinted a memory at the time that it happened, and it was so deeply imprinted into the subconscious, and there was a charge of emotion around it that was deeply painful. That's like the definition of trauma, right? So some people get traumatized even if they didn't really have anything happen. So that's the interesting thing, because trauma doesn't actually have to come from a real thing. Like you can literally watch a movie and become traumatized. If you see like the violence or like rape, or you see all these horrible things, your mind can literally go in, imprint that, build an emotion around it that feels like it happened to you, and then embed that into your consciousness. And moving forward, you can feel like you've been violated in a very deep way and never even had that experience, because that's how powerful our minds are, and our emotion, and our mechanism of embedding the memories of things and holding on to those. Does that make sense, you guys? Right? So think about it. So everybody has trauma, but like some of them, it's actually like it was related to a physical thing that happened. And other people, it's related to just like an imaginary thing that happened. Like, for example, I had a trauma one time. It was a really deep trauma, but it wasn't directly related to a physical pain. It was related to the threat of a physical pain. So for example, my sister, she used to have a lot of anger issues because she had an abusive boyfriend, and she would get triggered and get very angry. So one time we were hiking, and something happened and there was a guy, and I wanted to get away from him because I felt weird energy, and I was like, let's just walk fast and move away from him. And she's like, why? She's like, he's fine. And I was like, I don't feel safe, and I just want to walk fast. And then she's like, there's nothing wrong with him. Why are you freaking out? And then she like pulled out her water bottle and wanted to hit me with it, like physically wanted to like hurt me violently. And I was so traumatized from the threat of it. She didn't actually hit me, but it imprinted in me a trauma that in the future made me not want to go on trips with her for the potential of it being a violent interaction, right? So trauma can be in that form. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't have to actually have happened. it can just imprint from a thought of it happening. So a lot of people have trauma when it even came from, like I said, a movie. It can come from social media. It can come from school, whatever. So everybody literally has just like tons of layers of this. So when it comes to children of the future, our initiative and our intention and everything is really to provide tools and knowledge and skills for these children and also the teachers to understand the core of all this, the trauma, to release it, how to heal that, whether it's with breath work or EFT or meditations or various different things that we offer, and how to rewrite the story around it, right? Because that's the important thing. That's what I started out with in this conversation about finding the silver lining, right? Because it's like you could take something and then hold on to it your whole life and let it shape you, let it shape your whole life interaction with relationships, with your career, let it hold you back from the fulfillment of your highest purpose of life. There's so many things that could happen. And that happens to a lot of people. Like that's why a lot of people don't fulfill their life purpose or don't achieve their highest potential. And it's generally not because they don't have a great potential, because everybody literally has limitless potential. So the only thing that holds people back from achieving their highest potential, whether it's a child or an adult, is that the mind believes all the stories that have accumulated in there. And for some people, the story is you are not strong, or you are weak, or you're not intelligent, or you're never going to succeed. Like whatever the story that went in and imprinted itself into the consciousness of the child, that becomes how the life unfolds, right? So with children of the future, we're bringing consciousness into the schools, right? So that's kind of like the main thing to understand. And so when it comes to your question, Madison, like how do you get involved? Basically, you got to graduate, you got to do the program. And I would also really encourage you to start teaching right away once you graduate so that you can build skills, right? Because that's the important thing, is like really practice is what creates the mastery, right? You want to get to a place where you're comfortable, you're fluent, you're skillful, you feel confident with your teaching. And it's always going to keep growing and improving, but that's the first step. And then like if you come to Bali, for example, you'll be learning how to lead those retreats. And then after we get these school things set up, we'll basically be picking the people that are ready to work with us, that want to work with us, and then bringing you into the various ways that we're going to be working with that. So we're going to do retreats. Those are going to be more in America though, but like with the teachers, we're going to be doing healing retreats or offering healing retreats. And people that are graduated from Flow State Institute will be selected to help lead those. And then also the online. So we'll be doing a lot of online, because the only way to really reach 3 million teachers is to do a lot online. There's very slow, you're going to get there by going with live. Even if you had a stadium of 15,000 people, it would still take 20 years or something, to be able to reach them all in a live setting. But we're going to choose the most, burned out teachers to go to these retreats. And the retreats are predominantly going to be focused on teaching them how to teach these things to the kids, and also teaching them how to heal their burnout. Because that's the other big crisis in the schools, is the teachers have this huge burnout crisis. And so we'll be helping with that. So those are the different ways. Does that answer your question, Madison?
Yeah, that definitely answers my question about the children of the future, and that sounds really cool. And then I was also wondering about like getting involved with the yoga teacher training retreat kind of thing, because like I know like for me, like I'm just getting involved and I'm still doing the yoga teacher training, but like I'm going to Bali, but I'm not like learning to be a leader. But I'm wondering like how people get involved with that too.
Well, being there will help, because you're going to be surrounded by a lot of the ones that are leaders. And I think the best thing you can do being there is connect with them. Obviously they will want to work with people that they connect to and that they feel are aligned. And so, since they'll be leaders, I'll be kind of like giving them a little bit of like creative permission to choose what they want to do, because they'll be leading these in the future. So if you go back to a retreat and do the advanced training, for example, or depending on how it unfolds in terms of how you want to do your trainings with us, we have the 200 hour, the 300, and the 500 hour. So generally, when it comes to Yoga Alliance, they require for the people that lead the teacher trainings as the leaders to be in the 500 hours. So that's why we offer the 500, is so that you can be a leader in that, and then you'll have the Yoga Alliance credentials. You would also be able to lead these on your own eventually. So that's also with the 500 hours, you would be able to. But even that, like I always say, like it's such a good idea still to work with others. So if for example, Madison, if you and Floor were like, let's do this together, that would make sense. Like trying to do it yourself is very hard. I did that for a long time, and like I said, 12 years. And I did have people that I would bring and hire to assist me. But for the most part, I did everything myself. And it was like a lot of work, and sometimes I would be really burned out. That's one of the reasons I transitioned, after 12 years, one of the reasons I transitioned away from doing 30-day trainings. It was just so much work, and I was doing it all pretty much myself. But I did have assistants, and they would help. And that was very, very beneficial. But what I want to see moving forward is those of you who want to be leaders, that you can actually just, you have to get your 500 hours certification. But other than that, that you would work with each other. And after you learn how to lead these, that you would actually be the ones leading these. Like every year, we always do these like at least once a year. And what we probably can do after we launch our film, like after we do the documentary film, I think we would get a ton of people wanting to join it, so like sign up and learn this. So I foresee like it growing and the demand growing, and so like that's another reason why I want to set it up where there are people in the tribe that can lead those, because not to say I think it's a wonderful thing. Like I've been doing it for 12 years, I love doing it, but I just don't have time. I think moving forward, it's hard to explain how I don't have time for that, but it's like for those who do want to travel, it's great. So I just want to mention that so that you understand that's really like the long-term perspective. Does that make sense, Madison?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And I guess a question that comes off of that a little bit is like, so, but even thinking about it, like I feel a bit more aligned with like the children of the future approach and like teaching teachers, because that's kind of like the path that I've been taking so far with my master's in education and also becoming a elementary school teacher. So that's cool. But I'm just curious like about how like say a teacher, because this is my situation, like if they do the 300-hour training and then they want to get the 500-hour to be able to do those retreats. I know you said that you like often recommend that people go to like 2 more 10-day treat trainings to get the 500 hours. Like what if also like someone say like went and did another yoga teacher training thing like 200 hours in like India or something that's also Yoga Alliance, like, and then they have 500 hours, would they then also be able to just like be like, yeah, I have the 500 hours and I'm really interested and I've connected with this person who does it? Is that like another route to kind of take to do it?
I guess it depends, because usually like for our school, we like to see people learning what we teach. So if you go learn somebody else's school, you can't really guarantee what they're like teaching. It doesn't mean that it's not good, but it's like most schools are doing certain things. Like the 200-hour in most schools is like asanas, and that's it. So it's like learning just the poses and the names and sometimes the Sanskrit words and a little bit of pranayama. That's like the most generally like the most what people learn in the 200 hours. Some schools offer also some mantras and a little bit of meditation, but it's usually like one style, so but it just depends on the school, so I've had a lot of people come to my school after they did a different training and they said we didn't learn anything at our other training. When they say nothing, it's not that you don't learn anything, but it's like just such the basics, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why even with our training, I always say our training is an advanced training, even though you can be a beginner and do it, but it's advanced because you're learning a lot more stuff. You're
Yeah.
learning about
it's a ton.
Ayurveda, you're learning about EFT, you're learning like many forms of breath and many forms of even tantra and like nutrition and detox cleansing. And, like, so you're learning so much more that, but you're still learning all the asana stuff, too. But it's like you're learning so much more. That's why I always consider it like an advanced training, even though you don't have to be a advanced person to do the training, but you're just learning so much more. So like if you go to do another one, you're going to get like a really strong foundation of the fundamentals again. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's generally what a 200-hour always offers. Danny, will there be a live training in Costa Rica anytime in the next year or two? Hey, that's a good question, Danny. I actually have a great location there that I'm excited to. I won't be leading it, but when the leaders are all ready, we would probably put that on the calendar. And the only thing with that property, it's a beautiful property and it's really, really nice. The only thing with it is that it has, they only do 7 or 14 days. They don't do 10-day programs. So I was considering what to do about that because I think it's a great location. And I was like, well, what we could do is 14 days and then whoever's leading it, the last 4 days could be a supplemental program instead of it just being the flow state teacher training. Like the last 4 days could be, let's say, a detox cleanse or plant medicine retreat add-on or something with leadership training or something, so that it would be an add-on because they don't allow just 10-day programs at that property. But I think if I was doing it again in Costa Rica, that's the only property I would want to do it at because I've tried all these other properties and a lot of them are not good. I am a connoisseur of property and like I will never do a program at a property that doesn't have everything, that we need. And a lot of different retreat properties are kind of like, rustic and stuff. So we did one this last December in Costa Rica, and they didn't have the proper facilities that we needed for the chef, and so it was like really that was the difficulty. So anyway, I'm very particular now specifically about that, but we do have a good location. So probably definitely in the next year or two, Costa Rica will be back on the calendar. Bali is always my favorite choice because it's just like literally the best place on earth. And it's like a bucket list place. Like if you've ever wanted to go there, the best way to do it is to go to the training with us, to go there and then stay a little longer if you can, because being there is so remarkably transformative. It's such a beautiful spiritual mecca. And so that's why we're doing it in Bali. Let's see. Flor says 4-day extra program sounds good and smart. Oh, good. Danny says, are you requiring proof of vaccine? No, we don't require any vaccines. And, Bali doesn't require that either. And Costa Rica doesn't require, nobody's requiring that hardly anymore. Some places in Europe still have a little bit of that, but in Canada, actually, I heard. But Bali does not, Costa Rica does not, and America does not. So the places that I'm more gravitating to, they're really let go of that already. Germany and France. Oh, they do? Yeah. Oh, you're Canadian. Oh man. Flora says Germany and France. Yeah. So that's the thing. Some places are still really strict about that, and other places have really shifted away from making that a focus. So I'm really anyway. Bali does not. Costa Rica does not. But other places do. Anyway, so yeah, we'll definitely let you all know when we have something in Costa Rica. Like I said, I wouldn't be leading it, but everybody that's coming to Bali this January is going to learn and have the opportunity to learn how to lead that. So Flora will be there, Madison will be there. Maybe Danny and Joel, maybe you guys will come. It would be amazing. We would love it. It's going to be really amazing. I'm super excited because we have some of my favorite people coming, and also because it's in January. And it's literally the best way to start the new year. If you really want to start like your new year in like the best vibe, it's Bali, flow state training, retreat. And I was telling some people, like what I would recommend is you're going to get a massage every day because they have a beautiful spa there, and I think the massages are like $20 or something. You can get one every day, and yeah, you just leave there like a new person and with a real clear vision of the future. And we do every morning the miracle morning practices. So that's when we vision the future and what we're creating and manifesting in our lives, and then through the kriyas and the breathwork and the mantras and the meditations and everything, you're just like anchoring that energy in and feeling your way to quantum leap into that reality. So it really is such a unique and beautiful opportunity. Let's see, Danny says, woohoo. Flora says, maybe I will be there already for New Year. Yeah, that would be amazing. Madison, that would be very cool. Yeah, and I was encouraging that, Flora. I was like, if anybody wanted to go for New Year and go early, highly encourage it. There's actually really fun parties that happen in Bali on New Year's. And just being there is nice, and then we start on the 10th. I chose to start on the 10th for anybody who had holiday plans with their family and didn't want to like choose one or the other. And I was like, do your family, do your New Year where you're going to do it, and then join this. And so I wanted to make it a little bit more available for various reasons like that. But if you can make it early, it's definitely worth going early. So I might go early. We'll see. Now I have a whole farm of puppies, so I'm not sure. Look at my babies, my little ones. Look at them. I don't know what to do. I have 4 puppies. Actually, I have 5 puppies because Mia Moore is actually a puppy technically. She's only 1 year and 3 months, but now she has a little tribe. Look at this little guy. Hi.
Tiny.
Oh, isn't it little
Baby.
cute? Hey guys, I'm baby born. I'm the little born one. Oh my god, isn't that cute? It's like this big. I gotta get a scale. I'm supposed to weigh these little guys to see how much they weigh. I think they're like a half a pound or less. They're like this little mouse puppies.
They do look like mice.
Cute. What's that?
I said they do kind of look like mice. Speaking of the Bali trip and like going early and things like that, do you have any like advice or like insights on like places to like stay, go, especially like in regards to like where we'll be? I don't know, like any like insights about that. I've never left the country before, so this is like my first time like doing something like this, and I'm like,
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I've always wanted to go to India and I've always wanted to go to Thailand, and they're both really close. So I'm like, okay, what if I go to India, then I go to Bali, then I go to Thailand, and then I'm like overwhelming myself a bit, and I'm like, okay, like I feel like I need to like slow down and like figure out like a practical way to go about these things. If you have any like insights about that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, there's a couple things. It depends on your budget. I mean, you can always do everything you want, but if you have the money, that's the way life works. But basically, India is, I think it's roughly 8 hours flight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's close, but it's not like 1 minute away. You know what I mean? It's definitely a whole nother trip. And India is such a vast place that I don't know. I mean, I've been there before for 2 weeks, or that's the less I've ever done. I've never done less than 2 weeks because it's almost like you can't do anything in less than 2 weeks. It's so big, unless you're just going to go to one thing, So if you don't have at least 2 weeks, I would do India a different trip, because you go there, first of all, it's a huge thing. So you have to decide, what do you want to do in this one day that you're there, whatever. Like when I've been to a lot of places. I really love everywhere in India. My favorite place is the Oneness Temple.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really remarkable place. We're probably actually going to do our trainings and at the Oneness Temple as well eventually, because they have a great facility, but we're working on a couple of things, and then we will be able to do it. But that's where I will be. If I'm going to do anything in India, it's going to be at the Oneness Temple. So if you were going to go to one place, I would suggest that place. You know what I mean? But if you were like, I want to just go around India and see India, then it's like you got to do a whole month or something. It's too big.
Yeah.
And It's like saying I'm going to go to Africa. You know, it's like a whole
Yeah.
continent. Do you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
anyway, but that's what I suggest for India. Now, Thailand, I love Thailand, honestly. It's there are certain things about it that I don't love. Like, for example, they have a very big sex trade with children, and I
Mhm.
hate that. Like, it's disgusting, and it's part of their culture. So even the children don't think it's that weird. For example, they have all these little lady boys. They're like 8 to 12 little kids that dress up as a woman and are strippers and prostitutes, and you know, and you can see that not everywhere, but in certain places. And then they also have young girls too, between 8 to 12, that are all makeup and everything, prostitutes. I just don't feel right about that part of their culture. So that's one of the reasons I didn't get like to be a super Thailand person. Although I've been to Thailand like 10 times, because I used to work when I was a professional paddleboard athlete and I had my line of paddleboards. They were based in Thailand, so I would go there like every year, and I would always. I mean, it's a really beautiful place. I mean, there's a lot of magic there, but like if you were going to go to Thailand, there's a couple places that are really special, but it depends on what you're looking for as well, you know. And like in Thailand, one of the things I liked the most was the elephants. Like, it's got a really big elephant population, and but then they're kind of sad because sometimes they're like chained up and that kind of thing, and you're just like, okay, well, but they do have elephant sanctuaries, but they also have that in Bali. So a lot of the almost everything that you could do or get in Thailand is also available in Bali. That's why I ended up just staying with Bali so much, because they have mostly all the same stuff, but their culture is a lot more pure because it doesn't have that prostitution element. And I think it's because of the relationship to their spirituality. It's much more of a like Bali has a much deeper spirituality, I think, because I think that if Thailand had that true connection to their Buddhist roots of spirituality, they would not allow their children to be prostitutes. So I don't know. It's just a part of the way I see it. But Thailand is so beautiful. I mean, like, it's hard to, I would never say don't go there, but I'm just saying, like, this is what my experience is. So that's why if you're looking for amazing beaches and elephants and cliffs and volcanoes and spiritual temples and blah blah blah, they have them in both places, right? They're different, though. They look different because the Thai culture has different architecture, and things like that. And Thailand is a Buddhist culture, and Bali is Buddhist and Hindu. So they have different spiritual traditions. But they're both amazing. So it depends. If you have a lot of time, you could stop in Thailand. You could go to like Chiang Mai or Koh Phangan or one of those places that has like all the elephants. And if you were going to do something like go to Thailand, I would suggest going after our program, because one thing that you can do in Thailand that I've had people do is you can actually get like if you love the Thai massage that we teach, you can go to Thailand and get a full training in that if you end up falling in love with it, because that's where the roots of Thai massage come from. And I would encourage that. If you were like, I want to deepen my skills of Thai massage, I would say, yeah, go to Thailand and get the training there, because that's what they specialize in that. Then like with India, like I wouldn't recommend hardly any of their trainings, but the Oneness Temple for meditation, I think, has some of the best meditation in the world. Like their whole thing is meditation. And they have this huge temple. It's amazing. And they just do meditations all day, every day, like all the time. And it's always oneness and abundance and peace, you know. So these are like the energy that they perpetuate, and then they want to help people to gain the skills through the meditations. So I think that that's very valuable, because some meditations, you know, you could do it, you never get anywhere. Like you could go to a meditation let's say retreat or training in India, and they're teaching some, maybe let's say, traditional style that's coming from Hinduism or something, and it may or may not resonate with you, you know what I mean? But one thing that I learned with oneness meditation is It's not about it resonating. It just freaking works. And it's so good. It's not like, oh, that's not for me. What they're doing is they're teaching you how to connect to the field of oneness and how to feel that.
Yeah.
And that's for everybody, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know, I've just like been like I've like felt called to go there for like a few years. And I'm mostly like looking like especially with India just to like deepen my learning about like where like yoga and meditation and stuff like kind of like came from and all of that. Yeah, so just like any.
So another place then, if I were you, I would go would be this town called Rishikesh, and Rishikesh is in the north, and it's kind of in the mountains, and it's kind of known as the birthplace of yoga, where they had like the original rishis, and a lot of yogis came from there. So it's really an interesting thing. When I went to Rishikesh, I was a little disturbed because it felt that they had taken yoga and really like dramatically commercialized it. So everything they sold had an Om sign or a Ganesha. And it was just like this commercialization around what in America or in other cultures feels very sacred because you don't see them everywhere, you know? But it's like, imagine if you are like walking down the street and every shop is selling things with Om signs and with Ganesha. And it becomes not special when you see it like that. It becomes like less sacred feeling. That's what I was experiencing. And I felt when I left India the first time, which when I was young, I was like 25 or something, and I went and I felt disgusted, I would say, like by how it felt so commercial around what I had originally felt was sacred energy of Om and stuff. And so I think it's still like that. I don't know. I haven't been to Rishikesh in a while, but it's still very beautiful. It has a lot of sacred, beautiful energy there. The energy of the land is what really is special there. But that element was weird to me. But the oneness temple didn't feel like that because they weren't really doing that. So I think that's one of the reasons I resonated it so much there. But if you wanted to, you could also just travel more around Bali or Indonesia if you're going to go on this trip. And Bali, I mean, just Bali itself, I've been going there for 12 years and I've lived there for months, like 8 months at a time, and there's still more to see. So Bali in itself would be like a whole trip, depending on how long you have. So you have 10 days of our training. And so what I kind of encourage, if you have extra time, is to go to some of the other really special places in Bali. You know, like for example, this one place that I love to go to, it's a hot springs resort. And it's a hot springs on the ocean, and it has one of the best diving reefs in the world. So if you're into the ocean and snorkeling and diving, that's a really nice place. It's very healing because they have like hot springs, which is really good for your health. And that's up in the northwest. And then they have other places that have like beautiful temples in Bali, and places like there's one temple right on the cliff, and they do ceremonies there. And so there's various things like that where you could see something like really special in Bali by just traveling around there. So depending on how much money and time you have, if you could do it all, do it all. If you can't do it all, then I would say I would probably stay with just Bali and then do India on its own as a separate trip, because I would do that like a month if you could, or 3 weeks. And then Thailand, if you want to become deeper certified in Thai massage, then I would go there after like that.
Okay, that
There's
makes
also
sense.
an option. I have my friend, he has a Ayurveda retreat property in Bali, and anybody who wants to go deeper into Ayurveda, that's an option. And they do 7 days, 10, 14, 21, and 30-day immersions into the Ayurveda. I've done it 4 times. It's wonderful. It's life-changing because you're just getting like all these treatments, like oil treatments and massages and healing treatments, and they teach you how to balance your doshas, and it's really an immersion into Ayurveda. And so part of our program teaches Ayurveda and includes Ayurveda because I really believe in it. And but to really learn it deeply, I would suggest, if you could, stay longer or come earlier and do the Ayurveda retreat while you're in Bali, because it's in the same town as us. It's like kind of close. So that's an option where you could get and we actually are able to offer hours for that. So if you could get up to 100 hours for doing the Ayurveda training for like 7 or 10 days.
Cool.
So that's another option. I try to come up with ways to give people hours if they want to deepen, with things. And one day I'm going to eventually get connected to a Thai massage school. And so if you want to go deeper into the Thai massage, we're going to offer that as another 100-hour module, and the Ayurveda as a 100-hour module, and a couple of other of these advanced skills, I'm going to call it, or we'll call it more specialized parts, like modalities within the Flow State Institute. And then we would be able to offer hours for that. Like it wouldn't have to be taught by us, but it's a school that I approve, that I know their programming. And then we would give hours towards our advanced certification for that. So definitely the Ayurveda. We already do that. Thai massage, I have one in America that I offer, or that I would say is good, but I don't have one in Thailand right now that I would encourage yet, but eventually I will. And then also the Oneness Temple. If you go to the Oneness Temple, I would give hours for that, because I just know the school, and it's not a school in the same as mine. They don't certify teachers like I do in the way, but they have just ongoing amazing programming that's like life-changing. So if you ever go to the Oneness Temple, we will give hours for that, for the advanced certification. So these are some additional ways to get more hours. So you don't have to just keep coming and learning it, with us each time. Like it's really learning all these skills. And what I'd prefer is, kind of outsourcing it to the people that are specialized in those categories. And then you get to have deeper and more extensive experiences. And that's what I think it makes a great teacher, is to have all of that, skill and education and knowledge, and then implementing it with practice teaching and sharing it, and really become fluent in it, become proficient in it. And that's really where flow state comes in, right? So when you're in the flow state, this is how I developed the Flow State Institute, to tell the truth, is that I learned that after some time of teaching yoga, it became obvious to me that I didn't have to think anymore, ever. When I'm teaching, it literally just flows out, and I don't think, and I'm an amazing teacher. And I realized that I was like, wow, this is not, this is available to everybody, is what I really started to see, but not everybody knows about it. Like some people, they never get to that because they don't learn how. So that's where we started the Flow State Institute. And so that as a teacher, whatever you're sharing, it doesn't matter what you're sharing. You could be sharing about widgets. You could be sharing about real estate. You could be sharing about yoga, whatever you're passionately sharing about, but that it's coming through you, and it's not your ego and your mind that knows all of these things. It's beyond the mind, and it's literally tapping into source, the divine source of life, which I call God or the universe, the infinite intelligence of that, and then drawing it in, and then just allowing it to flow through you. And that's also how you tap into infinite creativity. You don't have to try. Like if you're trying to be creative, it never works, right? You're like forcing creativity, it doesn't happen. The only way to really feel and be creative is, yeah, more just like moving around. The only way to feel and be creative is allow it to flow through you. And that's why a lot of times taking a vacation or going on a trip awakens a new level of creativity. It's because that energy it's like a portal that needs a door to open, and then the flow comes through, and it's not you, it's not your mind, it's literally just tapping into the Akashic records, right? The infinite book of life and the intelligence of that. So anyway, that's really what we focus on at Flow State Institute, is learning how to do that so that you can apply that at anything. That's why a lot of it's about like kind of getting out of your mind, or letting go, or surrender, or like getting out of your own way in that sense, because that's how you're going to tap into your highest self and your infinite creativity and your flow. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah, I have a question. So like, and when you say like when we get into this flow state, is it I don't know, I guess could you explain a little more about like how we get there? Like, is it through like our, I don't know, like just all in the sense of practicing like flow state yoga.
Yeah, that's the unique thing about it. Like literally, you don't need to try. Like if you're trying, you're not doing it. But what you have to do is practice.
Okay.
Right? So practice means you do the work. You don't go into it with the mind of, I am going to be in flow state. No, that's pushing it away. That's creating resistance. Instead, you go into it and you just surrender into the doing of it, to the being of it, to the flow of it, to allowing of it. Like, so whatever the it is, meditation, if it's breath, if it's flowing in a yoga sequence, if it's doing a Thai massage exchange with energy with somebody, or doing a cleanse, whatever it is, you're going in with the intention of knowing that you want to clear any block to the flow and just be a channel. That's the true only intention. And then once you allow for that, then you become that, and you don't have to try. It's not like, oh, and then I did it because I tried so hard. It never works if you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is you don't have to wait 10 years to get to it. I don't really feel, I mean, I think that there's an old saying that says 10,000 hours is the amount of hours of something you need to do to be a master of it. Which I do believe that. 10,000 hours, it's interesting because if you add up, let's say 1 year, and 1 year, 365 days. So 1,000 hours would be 3 hours a day for the whole year. And let's say you took weekends off. So let's say 4 hours a day with the weekends off. So that would be 1,000 hours in 1 year. So you need 10 solid years to get 10,000 hours of something. But you can expedite that by being more immersed. So instead of doing 3 hours or 4 hours a day, be full time. All of a sudden, you cut your whole timeline down by like 60%, right? So instead of 3 hours a day, maybe you teach 6 hours a day or full time, and you have like more commitment. And then when I say teach, what I mean is you're literally sharing these gifts that you're learning and then also doing your own practice. So when you get into the flow of that, it's actually enjoyable. I know myself and also many of our graduates, they've been telling me how much fun they're having teaching and how much they enjoy it. And it's like the best feeling. And it's so true. Like when you love what you do, like teaching yoga is the best thing. Because literally, like, what are you doing? You're transmitting positive energy and you're helping other people feel good. That's always going to be good. You know what I'm saying? Like no matter what. That's why a lot of people, even if they're like rich and famous and don't need money, still teach yoga because it feels good to teach yoga. And when you learn about that, you realize the more you do it, the better your life can be. And also that you can be getting yourself into flow more by just sharing this. So that's the thing about it. And then you can get paid for that. So it's like a win-win, right? So it's like there's all these wins around that. So it's like you just have to get into it. And the first step is learning how to do it, right? Learning how to teach it. But then that's why in the app and in the online training program, we have the app where you're going to post your homework, because just in the doing of the homework, it's getting you there, right? It's like, okay, this is how I would say this. This is how the video, sharing it in that way is creating momentum for you. Let's see. Danny said, I love that, Madison. I've been reading Hindu mythology books. The history and folklore is fascinating. I know it really is, and if you guys want, I can recommend a few good books about that. Madison said, I've always said being a yoga teacher is such a life hack. It is. That's why, in my view, I feel like everybody should do a yoga teacher training, even if they don't want to be a yoga teacher, perhaps, because it only can benefit you. There's literally no downside to doing a yoga teacher training. You learn how to do this amazing skills that will help you in every area of your life for the rest of your life. And also you can share that with others around you if they're suffering and help them to stop suffering. It's like literally everyone should learn how to do that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't even make sense. That's why I want this to be taught in schools. Because it's like, all right, well, where else are you going to make it mandatory? You can't make it mandatory for adults. Once they're already grown up, you miss the boat. Like you can't require them to do stuff. But kids, you can still require them to do stuff. So that's where we can really change the future. That's why I call it children of the future, because you can get them when they're in that stage where you can still require them to do stuff and then influence their consciousness at that stage so that when they're adults, they're not problematic for the planet. Instead, they're a contributor and they're making the world better. Like, that is where we're headed. That is the true golden age. And even my film that I'm making about the dynamic renaissance, we're talking about that and how the importance of children and the creativity and the mental health and all that, in order for the planet to heal, and for any of the things that we're doing in the world of sustainability, for example, those are not going to be useful if we have a bunch of humans on Earth with mental health problems. Like, oh, let's heal the planet, but like all the humans are problematic. No, you need to heal them too. So that's why we're really, passionate about both. But hey, it's 11:11. We'll do a quick prayer for humanity since we're talking about it. Thank you, God, for blessing all the beings on this planet, all the children. May they have all the food, water, shelter, support, love, affection, joy, and infinite prosperity and abundance in their home and in their family in order to achieve their divine life purposes. And may all beings everywhere be happy, healthy, and free. And so it is, and so it is. Amen. Aho Ashe. So we're drawing to an end. Mia Moore, she's over here nursing away. The little ones. Little ones. Look at the cuties. Hi, guys. So appreciate you all being flexible with me, being here in the bed with the babies. But I didn't get much sleep last night, and I got to keep on this baby duty. It's a whole thing. They're so cute. It's like ridiculous. Like, this little tiny thing. Look at that little head. Look at the little one, like peeking in. Look at his face. Hi.
I have a couple more questions. They should be pretty quick.
Go ahead.
One of them, so when I was going through like the overview of the yoga teacher training and it talked about the live Zoom workshops, it said that there's a schedule for 8-week rotation of workshops that rotate every 8 weeks and then back to the start topic for anyone who's in the middle or misses any. And I was just wondering like when that started and like where we're at in the 8 weeks.
Well, I'll tell you what we did. We have something like 2 or 3 years of those recordings. And so now what I did was, instead of repeating that every time, because we already did it for like multiple years in a row, and we have all the recordings. So I'm encouraging people, if they want to do those very specific topics, that go and watch the live replays, because we have like, hundreds of hours of that. And then with these lives, it gives a lot more opportunity for us to have this type of interaction, because before, it's like I'm sitting here talking about something the whole time, and then you guys are just learning it, which is fine. But I feel like a lot of the recordings are good for that. That way, when you're actually live with me, you can ask any question you want about any of that or anything else. But it's like it gives more time for you to have actual access to me and the questions. Sweet. Whereas before we did that a lot already. So I was like, well, why redo it over and over?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless there's something that you run into that you're like, I just don't get this. But even that, you can still bring it into this conversation and we can go over it. So it's always going to be possible to clarify or, make something more understood in this session. But we decided to do 2 things. First of all, stop the continuous like repetition of all the topics and just direct people to the replays. And then we shortened it, because in the past, this used to be a 3-hour requirement. But because we have multiple years of replays, I was like, well, you can get all your requirements from those hours. And then in this session, we do it. Usually it's like 1 hour. Sometimes it's a little more, but like, it's not about how long, but it's more like getting everything covered that people are asking. And also like on the new moon and the full moon, we usually do like a ceremony, like a meditation and like a whole practice together as a community. So it's got a little variation in the length, but for the most part, the real intention is to connect during this. Let's see. Danny says, do we log these lives as well? Yeah, you can, if you will, keep track of the lives, and then you get hours for all of this. Anytime you do anything, you can get hours. And then, of course, any of the replays that you watch, you want to log that, because that's going to help you you're going to just accumulate the hours. And I think it's cool because that's another way where you can do the fast track. You can get a lot of hours just by watching the replays. And a lot of people tell me they love watching the replays because it does feel like you're live. You know, you got interaction, people are asking questions. Super cool, but it's just, you know, it's not live. So you can watch it whenever you want instead of at this exact time. And the other thing that I'm feeling, if you guys would be open to it, because it depends on what time zone everybody's in. Because I've always tried to do this at a time zone that works for people. But I was thinking of doing it 1 hour later because I'm in Eastern time zone.
Yeah.
And so I was doing it at 10 a.m., but then that's 7 a.m. in California time zone, which is very early. So I think a lot of California people, right? A lot of California people don't want to come on because it's so early. So I was like, well, maybe if we do it 1 hour later, like 8 California time and 11 Eastern time. And then in Europe, that would be kind of the mid-evening. Right, Flor? So you're 6 hours later or 5? 1 hour would be good. Okay. So I'm thinking to do it 11 a.m. It'll just be 1 hour on Sunday. It'll still be the same time day, but just so that the people on the different time zones, it would be 5 p.m. in Europe. Okay, good. So that's a good timing, I think. And then, so it's not like right in dinner, hopefully, like, you know, and it should be good. And yeah, that way the California people will be more inclined to tune in. Because I'm always trying to find the perfect time for the whole world. It doesn't exist. Like anybody in Australia, they're like, why don't you have any times available for us? And I'm like, we might have to add another time depending. But right now, our main focus is going to be with America because we're going to do a lot of the schools here. And so when that happens, it's going to be just kind of basing around the American time zones. But I don't know. It's always a tricky thing to try to hit all time zones. It's almost like it's not possible. But anyway, some people's always going to have to be up in the middle of the night. So I try to make it available for Europe, America first, and then anybody else, you know, we try to work with that. Madison said, yeah, 7 has been tough. Yeah, that's great. I'm also West Coast. Oh, good, Danny. Okay, perfect. Then Flor says it's fine. Perfect. I'm so happy to hear you guys like that idea because I was just wanting more people to be able to tune in. And I know a lot of times it has to do with the timing. So I'm like, now the East Coast people will be like, that's in the middle of the day. But, you know, whatever. We try to figure it out for everybody. But we'll see. Hopefully one day we're going to figure out time collapsing. We just collapse everything into one moment and then everyone's there at once.
Yeah.
You never know. But anybody else have any other questions today? Was today helpful? Flor says the lives are nice to get connected again. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I love it too. And I love doing our ceremonies. I love interacting with you guys. I love when you ask questions. I feel like it's super beneficial. And it's also very beneficial for anybody who's considering joining the training or like who's just new and watches the replay, because these questions, everybody has these questions. And that's one of the reasons I love to allow and to do a whole interaction around questions, because no matter what you're doing, you're always going to have questions, you know? And so the more you have, the better. And then I can clarify for people. And, you know, one thing that I'm really happy about is a lot of people always tell me that they feel like the teacher training program is really well laid out and organized. So it's like, you know, you just go in order. So it's nice in that way. But even with that, there's still questions that come up, right? About, I remember Madison, for example, was asking, how to fast track. Oh, actually, it was another girl, JC. She wanted to do fast track. She wants to graduate in 8 weeks. And so I was like, okay, so that's a question that people have. And I think we do have it somewhere in the frequently asked questions. But basically, how to fast track, how to graduate in 8 to 12 weeks is really the secret sauce is, you know, watching the replays, because a lot of the replays are 3 hours each. So if you do a bunch of those, it's going to add up a bunch of hours pretty quickly, you know? So the replays will give you 3 hours each, most of them. And then the program itself, you have to do all of the content there, all of the required content. So it's also just a matter of organizing your time so that you can dedicate time each day. If you want to get it done in 8 to 12 weeks, you definitely have to be doing something each day. Because if you look at if you say 200 hours divided by, let's say 12 weeks, that would be roughly 8 hours per week. I think 8 times 12, no, 16 hours per week, something like that. So 16 hours per week. So if you divide that by 7, that's like 2.5 hours a day, right? So you break it down like that. And then that's how you go, okay, so I do 2.5 hours a day. I can get it done in 12 weeks, 200 hours, right? Totally doable. but it's a full-time commitment. But if you're like, I'm going to take my time, like I had Lori do this and she took 2 years. She just wanted to take her time and she wasn't in a rush at all. And she just did it whenever she wanted. And she loves coming to the live. So she did that every day, every time, so she's done a lot of hours, but like in the end of the day, the bottom line is that you can take as long as you want. But if you want to do it shorter, you got to organize your time and then you can get it done. But the cool thing is, as you're going through this, it's all beneficial for your wellness, your mental health, your energy, your flow, your relationship dynamics. Everything about your life actually starts to improve by doing your homework. That's one of the reasons I love this school, because it's not just like, hey, do some homework. Like when you're in school and you're a kid and they're like, do your math. And you're like, I hate math. But with this, everything that you're learning is beneficial for your wellness. And that I think is what makes it enjoyable enough to do it. Is you have to like, commit to it. That's the difficult part, is actually just doing it. But then once you sit there and do it, you're like, this is great.
Yeah.
you know?
No, I totally feel that. I definitely like, I get like avoidant kind of with things, just like when I start, and like it took me like a month. Like I bought it and then like a month I just like didn't even touch it, and I was like really struggling, and then I was like, well, this stuff that's like gonna help me, so maybe I should try it. And then I started reading your book and I was like, yes, this is like all of the things that I needed to hear and like needed to be doing. Like, oh my God, can't believe I put it off for a month.
I'm so happy that you said that, because I was like, because I knew when you said that you have a hard time getting started with stuff, that was the reason. Because I was like, it's not hard to get started. Like, so I knew it wasn't the program itself that was hard to get started. I was like, okay, it was her, but how do you motivate her to get going? Because like, it is hard. That's what Michelle even chimed in. She's like, she has a hard time with things too. But then once you get started, then you get into a momentum, and then you're like, this is so fun. And you start being like, this is exactly what I was hoping to find in the world. And it's like exactly what I need. But you just have to get going. And then it's nice because it's organized in a way that it kind of just like, okay, do this one next, do this one next. And that's why we planned it that way. Because I know that doing online stuff is tough. I remember when I actually I tried to do this online hypnosis certification. This was about 15 years ago. The guy was so monotone and boring, I couldn't even do it. It was like, rah, rah, rah. Literally, like I had to quit. And I don't like quitting things, but I would fall asleep in every video. And I was like, what's the point? Like, I'm not getting anything done because I'm falling asleep from this guy's voice. So I think it's important that if you do online things, that it's got to be, engaging, and that's one of the things that's nice about Flow State and all of our program and all of our videos and all of our online training, is that I feel it's engaging. It keeps you engaged. There's a lot of action oriented things that you have to physically do so that it makes you stay there with it, versus like someone's just like, rah, rah. That's why there's almost no videos where it's just like talking, except the lives. But the lives have that interactive Q&A aspect that keeps it also like a little bit of an engagement there, versus just somebody lecturing for hours about stuff, right? So hopefully you guys feel that. Thank you for your great message, Joel. I wanted to mention, I saw he just posted a sweet comment about happy to be here, and we're happy that you came too. Super cool. Happy that you're part of our tribe. And I love you guys. If you have any other questions, always, 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 I'm available to connect in the app. And also, we have a WhatsApp group for Bali. So any questions that you have, you can always post in there. Also, if you have any friends that might want to join us, you can earn 10% commission for any referrals. And it's going to be like the most amazing start to 2023. Also, if you are feeling like you might want to do the Ayurveda thing, I'm going to post in the chat about that. I might send a newsletter out to our community as well for anybody who's feeling like that, because it's just a really nice experience and we can offer hours for it. So that's something that while you're in Bali is available as an option, and you can do 7 days, 10 days, 14. So there's different options depending on your budget, but it's not super expensive and it's nice. It's a life-changing immersion into Ayurveda. And they have all their people are trained in India, and their staff, the doctors are all Indian staff. So it's Ayurveda from India, but it's based in Bali. And so that's
cool. And will you let us know, like, or like you might like decide like how many days would cover like 100 hours, say, and so then we'd kind of like know what would be good to go for that.
Yeah, if you want to do, usually we do 10 days is 100 hours, mainly because you're not going to be able to say you did more than 10 hours a day,
True. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why we usually do that. So 10 days is 100 hours. But if you end up doing the 7-day program, we could do like something, 75 hours, and then you can get the other 25 in a different way or something, like, so there's different ways around it. But if you could do the 10-day, when I've done it, I've done the 10-day and I've done the 14-day. I think I've never done less than 10 or 14, but I think no matter what you do there, it's always just great.
So is it kind of like our training, like where you're like living there and like?
Yeah, it's a retreat, but it's a little different because it's not the full time. You're not like learning as much as experiencing it. They do teach you stuff. Like they have like one workshop a day, and then they have like you get to meet with the doctor so every day, so that you meet with the doctor and you learn stuff. And then also they have like when you do your treatments, you're learning by experiencing it, but they're not like teaching you it like in a book, but they're just like, this is it. So then, you learn it by doing it, which I think is a better way to learn. And I think it's just, for me, if I was going to say study Ayurveda, I would say go to the Ayurveda retreat. It's much deeper learning than the book, because you could read about it, but it's feeling it that you're going to be like, yeah, Ayurveda changes your life. Like to me, I would have never believed in Ayurveda if I didn't go to those retreats, because in the books, I never believed in it, because I was like, yeah, I mean, I understood the doshas, but I didn't get how you're going to heal all your problems with oil, I was like, and then they want you to drink ghee, which I hate the taste of ghee. So I was like, this is a weird idea. Like, I don't understand. But once you do the experience, then you're like, oh, I see how it works. And it works. It really works.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
One other thing. Oh gosh, sorry.
What?
My laundry alarm.
Look at me. My baby.
With the hours, I'm just like curious about, so like it's like technically it's like if it takes us more time to do something, do we not get those extra hours necessarily? Like how does that, because like for me, I know it like takes me a bit longer to do things than maybe like the average person.
To do what?
Just like the homeworks and stuff. Like it took me about 2 hours to do like 2 days of the 30-day yoga challenge.
What were you doing? Were you doing a video or were you doing a photo with like writing it out?
So like doing the like watching the video and doing the practice and then writing the homework part. And then
so there's two ways you can do it if you want. You can write it and do a photo. The other way is if you just film yourself doing it. Okay. But either way, you have to teach it back, and that takes time. But in the beginning, it takes more time because you don't know it yet. So you're like that's why it takes a little extra time. But once you get better at these things, it gets faster. Let's ask Floor, because I know Floor is a little bit farther along. Did you find that it's been getting easier over time to understand?
Yeah, I think it gets easier over time, but it takes me more time as well than scheduled. But that's also because the way I'm doing it, because it's not just homework you have to do. Well, you can do it that way. Just hand in the homework and do the little thing you have to do. But I like to be really beneficial for me. So I think it's okay to spend more time in it. So I really can learn and I really can think about, okay, what variations could I do from which pose towards which pose, and learn it deeply. So I think you can easily do it faster, but if I do it, I want to do it well, and I want to really learn from it. So that's why it takes me more time than it could take. I could do it faster. Just take a picture, hand it in.
Right, exactly.
But it's because the way I'm doing it. So there are variations, and
That's a good point. And that might also be the same thing with you, Madison. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like that, where you're like, you're going above and beyond because you're doing that because your consciousness wants to deepen and learn it in a bigger way. But if you just were one of those people that just took a picture, wrote one sentence, you would still get credit for the homework. But it's like, are you doing it that way? No, you're probably doing it the extensive way that Floor is explaining. And
Yeah.
that's really what I encourage, because it's not about rushing to get this done. Nobody's going to give you a cookie at the end. What you want to do is know it, and know it. It's like if you're trying to learn a language and you're like doing an online course, but like you're just trying to check off boxes, but at the end you can't speak the language. Why even bother? You know what I mean? Especially you paid for it. You better come out of that doing some stuff that you know how to do. So it's like Flora is exactly right. And that is like, you want to do it well and do it as really well as you can, because it's really about you knowing this and not how quickly, and everybody goes at their own pace. I know that Flora, her language is not English, the first language, I think, so it's even harder. She's got to learn, translation and then going to English. But that makes it really inspiring, to see also, like, we've had so many Europeans and people from different cultures that English is like second, third language. But, so when you can take that into consideration too, Madison, I think it will help you to realize you're just starting. So it's actually fine. And it will get faster with time, but you have an advantage because English is your first language. But you're probably just putting a lot more energy into it, and that's going to be beneficial though, because then you're going to come out of here as a great teacher and not somebody who just ticked off the boxes and got the certificate. Make sense?
Yeah, I definitely put like a lot of like thought and effort into most things that I do, so I definitely think I'm similar to Flora. And also, like, when I went to see like examples, like I saw Florid's and I was like, oh my god, like it was like so long, and like annotated the picture. I was like, dang, this is a lot. But like like that's amazing. Like it definitely like that deeper.
I try to make the homework so I have something for myself, not just to give it to Dashma. So she would say, hey, great, you did a good job, but just for myself. So I know if I want to look back, how to do the pose, I just can go back to my notes and see, hey, that are the things, how to do it, or where to come from, where to go to, the variations in it. And that's also why I picked this education, because I like your style and I like the way of teaching, and not just say like, oh no, I want to be the teacher and I have to be very good at everything and I want to have all the people coming towards me, but just know that, I will be one of the teachers and there's plenty of people doing yoga, so I don't have to compete with other teachers here in town. And also because it's in English, so if there are expats here in the region, I will also be it will be possible to teach it in English, because I did hear it all in English. So it's, even for me, it's now hard to teach it in Dutch because I have to rethink it.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
And I guess a question kind of going off of that, just like curious, because like if we are, say, spending more time, and like if we like tracked how much time is taking, not saying like, oh, I want to like drag it out to like get an extra 100 hours, but like if that kind of is naturally happening and we like are able to kind of like prove like I really went in depth with this and I feel like I've gained like a deep knowledge, like is there potential of getting like more hours because we're spending more hours doing it?
That's a good question. It's possible. I mean, like I was saying, like if you did the partial, like the 75-hour Ayurveda option, we could supplement hours in different ways, probably like with that kind of thing, whereas like, because I'm not like so anal about stuff. Like I really want everyone to succeed, but at the same time, like I like to be fair. So it's like if no one else got hours for doing homework, I would feel bad. Like all of a sudden I'm like just letting you two have it, but so ultimately they will find out. No, no. I'm just joking. But yeah, like there's ways that we can do that, and I feel like I said, we're going to be adding on more ways to give more hours, because so many people ask all the time, like, how can we get more than 500 and things like that. So we're going to eventually expand all the programming, but like I said, we're starting with this where you can get hours for the Ayurveda retreat trainings. You can, like I said, you can get hours for going to India if you go to the Oneness Temple meditation program. There's a few things that and then the Thai massage. If you decide to go deeper, we can give hours for that. So there are things within our school that we can definitely offer. I was also talking to Flor because she's a specialist in physiology, and eventually I'd love her to teach, maybe lead a retreat event that's specifically focusing on the anatomy and physiology as a specialty, because it's such a niche and a lot of people are bad at it, and like most people don't enjoy it that much. But if you can make it enjoyable and do a whole training around it, we would give hours for that, because it's something that's very beneficial for yoga teachers to have a deeper immersion and a broader understanding of the anatomy and the physiology science of it. And within our program, we do offer that, but we don't dive into it for like 100 hours at all. We just have a few modules, and then we have the anatomy book, and we do have it in there, but it's not like 100 hours of that. But we would be open to offering credits towards that. That's what I was telling you, Flor, because you're going to have your advanced training, and you could lead those, and you could offer CEUs, and it wouldn't even just have to be for our school. I think a lot of people from around the world who are yoga teachers would definitely take a training in that, because it's a very niche topic that most people don't find, that they're like not good at it, they don't enjoy it. But if you can make it enjoyable and help people through to understanding that, it will be very successful. So we'll offer hours for that, and then it depends. As we grow, we're going to offer different hours for different things, but for now, those are like the main things that we are able to offer additional hours for. And then, looking at how long it takes you to do your homework, we can talk about that. But I think that would be more in the supplemental hours to fill in for you. Make sense? As you get towards your 500 hour.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
Yeah. And I was getting some messages here from Danny, and I just wanted to acknowledge, because he was like, or let's see. So my understanding is there's homework, coursework, and then the 100 hours logged of video workshops. So that's exactly right. So there's about 100 hours of the online training course, which is videos and some audios, but mostly videos and ebooks. And then the 100 hours of recorded live sessions is like where you can get the other 100. But like I was saying, like if you ended up doing the retreat in Bali, that gives you 100 hours. Or if you do the Ayurveda retreat, you can get 75 or 100. If you did this oneness meditations in India, you could get hours. So there's lots of ways to get more hours, and to get these extra 100 hours. These little guys. Does that make sense, Danny? Totally. I check all my textbooks and yoga references for each assignment. Wow. Great. Yeah, and I wanted to mention too, someone who mentioned about the Hindu culture. So I have a few really good books I can recommend about that. I really felt Sadhguru's book called Adi Yogi did a great job explaining the origin of yoga, the first yogi, and the origin of yoga and tantra from a Hindu perspective with the story of Shiva. It's a very good book, and it was really well written. I like that one a lot. There's a lot of books. I mean, like the Bhagavad Gita is a very famous one. You should definitely read. And there's different books within the Hindu culture that I would recommend. But I would start with the Bhagavad Gita and Adi Yogi. And then if you guys have interest in more Hindu types of books, I can recommend.
How do you spell Adi Yogi? Or like I know yogi.
ADI. ADI is the word in yoga that means the first. So Adi is the first. So Adi Yogi is the first yogi. And it's Shiva. So it's a whole story about Shiva and his wife and how they created yoga and tantra and how it all spread and everything. It's a really good book. It's all based on folklore, but it's like, who's to say what's real and what's not real? You know what I mean? Like look at the Greek mythology and the Roman mythology, and you had all the mythologies, all the Egyptian mythologies. What's real, what's not real, we kind of don't know, but like certain things make sense. So you just gotta like take it with a grain of salt, but always just feel like what resonates with you, and then let go of anything that doesn't, and never feel like. I feel like one of the precepts of the Flow State Institute is that we don't push any ideologies on people. We believe in universal consciousness and oneness, and there are certain paths that I like to share about because they've been very instrumental in my journey to understanding universal consciousness and oneness. But there's many paths that lead to that. So it's not about any one philosophy or dogma or religion, in any sense. But I do believe in the universal laws, which is kind of a physics and a science more than religion. Look at me, Amor. Hi, Baba, my baby. Yeah, she's doing so good, you guys.
That's amazing. It's cool because I remember when I met you, you were telling me that she was gonna be having puppies, and it's cool that it's happened. It's exciting.
I know, it's so amazing. She gave birth. Now they're all sleepy. Look at her. This is her first day of being a mom. She's like, boy, is it a lot of work. These little guys, they just nurse. She's rich. She needs to. I gotta get her some food. So anyway, did you guys have any other questions?
I have one last question about the Q&A forum.
Okay.
So is that kind of for like anybody to be able to answer our questions, or are there like people who we should like add on there to like ask specific questions? Like I saw somewhere in the overview that talked about like it like named some people who are people to help with us or help us with stuff, but I'm not sure if they're like still people who are there to help, and like if
there's
there
different
are
people. I think the person that's going to be predominantly monitoring or like helping with that is Melody. Okay. She's just currently at Burning Man, so she when she gets back, she'll be able to answer any questions in there. So give her a little bit, but she said she'll be back after the 8th or so. So I'm gonna be, and she's actually gonna be down here in Florida working with me for a bit. So she'll be helping with the Q&A forum and also in the app. Any questions that you post in there, also with your homework, giving feedback on that. That's going to be one of her main focuses. Suki's not doing it. Suki was getting married and she had a bunch of stuff going on. So I transitioned and we're going to have Melody. And Melody is going to be kind of doing a little bit like Suki. So we'll see. I mean, we're going to try her for a month and see if it works, because I think she can do great. I just haven't worked with her. So I always give people a month trial when they're starting out to see if it flows good. But as long as it does, then she might end up staying on with us. And but she'll be doing all that stuff. Frequently asked questions. She'll also come on the lives with us a little bit, and I'm kind of training her. She did the 500-hour program, and I'm training her also in the apprenticeship to kind of be a leader. Like, she's young, but she's already like very leader in her. So I tell people, like, it doesn't matter your age, it's your energy. And like, if you feel like you're a leader, then you're a leader. But that means you need to cultivate those skills. It doesn't matter. Like, I think she's only 20 or something. She's very young. But I'm like, it doesn't matter your age, it's like you have this old soul and you have a lot of skills and you have that desire to be a leader, then you can be a leader. You have to take the initiative. And that's what I tell her. That's what I tell everybody.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Sweet. Okay, so Melody's going to be like kind of the go-to person. She's just not available yet.
She's back. Yeah, she's back in a few days. Burning Man, I heard, is over on the 8th. So
sweet.
For technical questions, Dashma, there was Nathan. Is Nathan still there?
Yeah, Nathan's in there. You can add him on the app, and he always is really responsive and pretty good at that. So if you have any questions, go to him. He's in the app, and you can either send him a message on the main board, what we call the wall or whatever they say, the feed, at Nathan, and then it will tag him. Or you can go to his profile and send him a direct message in like an inbox message.
Sweet. And then one other thing, a couple of my questions all written down, was just with when we track our assignments, like I noticed when I clicked on the link, it was like, it took me to the spreadsheets, and I made a copy of them because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to like do it right in that, or if I was supposed to make a copy. So I made a copy. Is that fine? And then we just like have it show. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because you're just gonna submit it whenever you're done with that. So it's just for you.
That also, I'm glad you said submit, because it made me remember about the homework. You had mentioned, or I think I heard you say that you mentioned that we could post a video of it. Like that might be just like for me, I know it can take me a long time to like put my things into words. So like for like the 30-day yoga challenge, like showing the poses and how we would teach it, we could take a video of ourselves teaching that pose. And
Yeah, that's what I
teaching
always
it.
say. Not everybody feels comfortable on video, but if you do, I encourage people even to start your own YouTube channel and put your homework
Yeah.
on your YouTube channel and then post the link for us, because you just want to get comfortable teaching. And I think
Mhm.
speaking to the camera, teaching and doing your homework that way is going to help you grow
Yeah.
faster as a teacher than writing it, because you don't generally write when you teach. It's usually
No.
speaking it. So
Yeah.
it's something I encourage, but I don't require for people that are very camera shy. I mean, but at the end you do have to submit a video of you teaching. So if you do the homeworks as videos the whole way, it's going to help
Yeah.
you in many ways, not just to
Yeah.
become a better teacher, become more fluent, become better on camera. You could start a YouTube channel, you could start a lot of things from that. And then
Yeah.
also, because the final exam where you have to teach a class at the end has to be on video, so you'll already be comfortable with that and you're going to do a lot better with that too. Flor
So
says you must make a copy of the Excel because otherwise you cannot fill it in and save it. Yeah, exactly. So when you click the Excel link, save it as a copy and then you can edit your own list. But
Okay.
yeah, so that was a good question, Madison.
That's like such good news, because I was like wondering that like I saw the thing, like it was like important notice, like if you're not comfortable with videos, and I didn't know why it said that. Like I was like, oh well, we're not posting a video. But like that makes so much, like I don't know, I'm really excited about this now, because like I feel very comfortable like on camera and like recording myself and stuff, and so
Oh,
I feel
good.
like that's gonna also make the process go quicker, and like also for like all those reasons that you said too, like being able to like get more comfortable with like speaking it. And yeah, that's really exciting. And also
Yay.
I want to start posting. I want to like, yeah, try to kind of like build
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you could
And
even
so-
make reels and stuff. Like I
yeah, that's
encourage people to do social media. Honestly, like I built my whole career around social media. Now, I think that there's other ways to build it too, like partnerships is a good one, and different collaborations, brand sponsorships. There's lots of good ways of building your career, but social media is a necessary element if you want to be a yoga teacher in this world.
yeah.
And I really feel that. And so if you make the videos, you can do them on YouTube. You could, depending on how long they're going to be, you could do both. Like if it's a short one, like if it's just one pose, you can
Mhm.
make a reel out of it. And then you
Yeah.
could also repurpose that on YouTube as a YouTube short, which is shorter than
Oh.
1 minute. And you could repurpose it as as a TikTok. So you
Uh-huh.
could do repurpose across all the platforms with each homework. And we don't have anything against you publishing it, and just put it out there, make it public. And then you just have to share the link to whatever you did in the app. But I think if you're going to share a link, you can share any link, but I would do the YouTube link.
Okay.
It's the easiest sharing link that you can get usually, but they're all
Yeah.
good. And you'll see all that in the Master Business Academy, which is included in the training, that like all these little hacks of like ideas, because that's really where, I mean, I'm an exceptional yoga teacher, but I actually think one of my greatest gifts is that I have a lot of creativity. So when it came to business, I was able to tap into that a lot. And that's what I share in the Master Business Academy portion of this program is like all that stuff, which is like super valuable no matter what field you're in, even if you weren't going to be a yoga teacher. But if you're going to be a yoga teacher, it's very valuable because it's like obviously you can see it worked. It worked for me. It can work for you. It can work for anybody. And
Totally.
so it's really like if you get a chance to do, watch some of that, and if you want to apply some of that while you're building towards completion of the training itself, and then you could be building your business while you go. You could have a whole website and a whole social media set up by the time you graduate. You know what I mean? Like I'm the
Yeah.
type of person, I'm like, be efficient with your life. And then if you
Yeah.
have friends that might want to join, you could literally be making money from referrals before you even graduate. You could like make all your tuition back. You could literally like, like there's so many ways that we built into this for there to be like super abundance flow to our students, so that you don't have to be like, this is costing me. Like it could actually be by the end making money like already for you, like if you do it right. So there's that option. And then there's a lot of other people that are like super busy. They don't have time for like doing the business and the training at the same time. Then you take your time and you do it whatever order you can. But if you
Yeah.
wanted to. And that's what I've had people do that in the past, where they came and they trained with me, and during the training they built their website, they built their logo, their branding, they
Yeah.
started setting up partnerships, they scheduled their first retreat, they had their social media going. Some of my students have literally like gotten millions of views on their YouTube videos because of my teaching. You know, I teach people how to have success because I don't have any need to hold any of that information back. Like I want you to be more successful than I was. I would say an exceptionally successful yoga teacher, but the teachers of the future are going to be much more successful than me. Things are easier now. When I started, I had to recreate every wheel that there was, and I had to figure everything out from scratch, and it was hard. You don't have to do any of that. So you're going to be able to get there and really accelerate. And I'm excited about that for you.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm excited about that too. I love that because that's kind of like I'm taking this year off to kind of like see what I can make of my life. Like I'm kind of like, I might become a teacher in an elementary school, or I might like go do all these amazing things. Like who knows?
Exactly.
So I love
Yeah,
that.
and by then we should have the Children of the Future thing set up so you can be working with us. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
super stoked. Like I said, anybody who's passionate and like really wants to, you're gonna have lots of opportunities with us because we have a big need, and we're aiming to solve like a huge problem in the world that has millions of people, suffering. So we definitely need help. And what it comes down to is people have to want to and be passionate about it, and that's two of the main things. And then the other thing is obviously be skillful with knowing what to do. So that's when doing the training, getting the knowledge, getting the skills, practicing, teaching, doing all of that is what's going to prepare you to be eligible,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's a saying that's like you have to participate in the manifestation of your own blessings. And what that really means is like blessings don't come to people who just sit there with doing nothing. Blessings come when they say opportunity meets preparation. So it's like while you're preparing yourself in the language of the Kabbalah, like while you're preparing your vessel, right, for more light, right? And then what's the natural thing to happen? More light will come in. You're preparing the vessel for that. It's not happening. You sit there and put all this energy into preparing your vessel for more light, and then nothing happens. No, that's the universal law. It's going to come, but you have to prepare your vessel, and that means getting ready, in all the ways. So I'm excited for you all, and I'm really excited and grateful to be able to be a part of this with you, and also with Bali and everybody that's coming to help out. And the training that we're going to do there is going to be very special because, like I said, it's going to be my last one. So can't wait to share that with you. Meanwhile, we're going to wrap it up. My phone's getting ready to die. I got Mia Moore over here in a pile of puppies. I want to get her some food.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm so happy that you guys got a lot out of this, and I'm always happy to connect. So nice to hear from you, Danny and Joel. Thank you for being here. Floor, always a pleasure, goddess. I'm so happy that you're coming to Bali, and I really feel you got to lead these physiology anatomy training retreats because you're going to have a huge success with that. And we'll even be able to promote those for you because we need them. But anyway,